All right, we got a ton of questions, and like I said, I was blown away by how many people. Not because Charles, it's you, but because we'll get a bunch of questions, but not like this. They blew the doors off
Wow.
our Twitter and our Patreon. So the first one up here is Marsh on Patreon, a very loyal member. He says,
Okay.
if wrestling fundamentals are things like tie-ups, running the ropes, and taking care of your opponent, what would you say are the fundamentals for being a good ref?
Mainly staying out of the way and being able to communicate between the wrestlers, to be able to pass messages from one wrestler to another. That's very, very important, but mainly staying out of the way. And something that I am not good at is not being seen. Myself, I tend to exaggerate things and moves when they happen. I don't recommend that for people, because it sort of takes away from the match. Some people tell me it adds to the match, but I would, if I were able, I would key that back a little bit myself.
If you're able.
But I can't. I've tried.
Really? You
Not
just
react to what's going on, and I cannot do it at this point in my career.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing it for a little bit. Maybe maybe something's
Second nature.
working.
You're right. I hope
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. With that in mind, though, when you talk about staying out of the way, and it has the way that the current day superstar, as opposed to guys you worked with back in the day, as we'd say. Is it different how you go into a match now, the way they prepare, or the way they prep you, or how you guys go into them now, or has it always been the same?
It's pretty much always been the same. I mean, when I was working with, like Rick or Hogan, I would get a lot less information. Whereas some of the guys now, they tend to let me know what the complete match is, everything they want to
Really?
do. And that's good to know, just so many of these moves nowadays, there's four names for the exact same move. And to be honest, sometimes it gets confusing. So
Yeah.
I'll say, give me at least three moves before the end so I don't confuse it with something else. Because I had a time, I did a match with Kurt Angle and Booker T. I think it was the Great American Bash. And I got the finish confused with the actual finish, and they were over on time, and I counted the match over, even though that wasn't the finish. Fortunately, somebody didn't get their shoulder up, and Vince congratulated me when I came to the back. But I told him, I said, I messed up because I thought that was the finish. If I would have known two or three moves prior to that, I wouldn't have made that mistake.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Wrestling on the Rocks from Twitter says, "What's
Great
the worst?"
people.
Yeah,
They are
absolutely.
great people. Yes. They
We
really
depend
are.
on them so much. But what's the worst thing a referee can do in the ring?
The worst thing?
The worst thing a ref can do in the ring.
Forget the finish. You know,
Yeah. Well, that
that's the
would
worst
be.
thing. Forget the finish,
Yeah.
and just get in the way. And sometimes these guys move so fast nowadays. Sometimes I find it hard to get out of the way. But being in the way and just forgetting the finish. I mean, that's going to be the worst thing you could do if you mess up a finish, especially if it's a championship match.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah.
Something like that. So to me, that's the worst thing that we can do.
All right, Stuart Walter. This also from Twitter. This is interesting. What's the best advice you've ever given to a wrestler?
To a wrestler?
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. I would say probably don't bury your referee. This is real. Treat it like it's real. Because that's what we try to do. We try to treat it like it's real. You don't want, to have your referee doing something that doesn't make any sense, like let's say there's a street fight and someone's calling for you to get in between them to break it up. I had that happen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who, but I had that happen. Don't do things that don't make any sense. So, and I'll listen to anything that any of the wrestlers have to say, whether there's someone that came in last week or someone that's been here for 15 years. I'll listen. But if there's something that I can add, I'll add it, of course.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, that really is important because you have to make it seem legitimate when you tell them, you got to back away or whatever, and they've got to listen to you because then it
They have to
takes the
listen.
credibility from the match.
They do, and when you start counting, they have to listen to where you are on the count.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times, and we shouldn't do it, but we try to protect the guys so much. We'll be on 8 or 9, and they're
Yeah.
not even starting to get in the ring, or they're in the corner and they won't back up. Um, what we should do is just count them out, and that's what
Yeah.
Vince wants us to do too.
Yeah.
But especially at live events, sometimes we find that we're trying to protect people too much. So, just listen to the referee and just respect what we're trying to do because we're respecting what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and it takes away from them too, and the
Absolutely.
entire match.
Right.
Jared Fritz on Twitter says, "What's the greatest single bit of advice that has helped you in your professional career?" I don't know, uh, necessarily from a wrestler, maybe another referee. What piece of advice really has carried you along the way?
The first thing that I learned, I have 2 ears and one mouth, so keep my mouth shut and listen.
Yeah.
You can learn so much just from listening to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest advice. You get some people that come in and they talk, and they don't listen to what everyone else is trying to tell them.
Yeah.
So, just listen to what you're being told to do.
I think that's good life advice, right? I mean, really, not just
Absolutely.
for wrestling.
Absolutely.
All right, Bo Beecraft, or yeah, I think that's
All right, Bo.
Beecraft. What's the most valuable thing your role and elders and peers have taught him through the years? I think this is more along the lines of, I guess, somebody who was a role model type who has really influenced you.
Yeah,
Besides Rick.
yeah, it's going to be Arn Anderson,
Yeah, okay.
you know, um, just take care of other people. Don't be selfish. You should always take care of others that can't take care of themselves, and that's something that I try to do. With the younger referees coming in, someone needs a room to stay in. Hey, you want to stay with me? Do you want to ride? To save some money. Just take somebody under your wing and mentor them because eventually it's time to pass the torch.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have people that are able to carry that torch.
And you've seen it. I saw it during my time where you had guys, when you have that kind of fame, and it does finally come after you've worked your ass off. We won't take that away from them, but some would get affected by it. But rather than talk about those people, who were the ones, and besides Arn
Right.
And Rick, that were great examples of that. That also, you know, took people under their wing, knew that they needed to pass on the legacy of the business and tradition.
I think the veterans have done that. Period. I mean, look at someone like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
He's passed it on to like Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. I think everyone that's been in this business long enough, they they know that's the right thing to do. Um, you know, so I honestly I just think everybody does it at some point. Um, People aren't selfish like they were. I think maybe in the 70s and 80s when it was more cutthroat. I don't think it's near as cutthroat as it was in the past.
Yeah.
You know,
Is Shawn Michaels a good example of that? Because we all knew him earlier on, and then when he came back, he seemed,
right?
but he seemed like he was a different
Yeah.
person, and I wasn't
He
there, so I didn't witness it.
right, right. Sean's a great testimony for how he has changed.
Yeah.
He has actually picked up and moved to Orlando to be at the performance center. That way he can pass that knowledge on
Mm-hmm.
to everyone else. So, a Texas boy moving to Orlando just to pass his knowledge on. I think it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and no question that to me, you think of top five, you've got to include Shawn Michaels in that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Probably top three
Yeah,
or two.
yeah.
Probably two.
And Bret Hart is, I don't know how much you ever got a chance to work with him, but he was always somebody else who I really admired when I worked with the WWF.
Yeah, I certainly think, Brett has a heart of gold. And
Yeah.
every few months I'll send him a text, just to say hi, see how he's doing. He's overcome so much in his life,
Yeah.
So if you need a hero to look up to, he's certainly a good one.
Absolutely. All right. Dre won the beat. Wants to know your top 5 George Michael songs. And we know you're a big fan of Wham.
I am a big fan of Wham.
So,
Gosh, I mean, how about there's no songs that I don't like from George Michael.
so do you still, I mean, on your, with your, I don't know, Spotify or whatever you listen to, is that still a big part of the playlist?
It absolutely is. And I have a fairly decent size of vinyl record collection. I have maybe 700 albums.
Really?
And I have probably 90 to 100 George Michael Wham albums. And they say, well, they didn't make that many. Well, you have the Japan release, you have the Brazil release, you have the 45s.
Wow.
So, I mean, Careless Whispers there, Faith is there, Father Figures there, Praying for Time, Jesus to a Child, Star People, Fast Love. I mean, I just love all of his music.
It's more than 5, folks.
Yeah. And one thing people don't know, when he passed away a few years ago, every TV show that I'm at, I wear a different George Michael or Wham t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I have about 180 different shirts in my collection.
So, how many concerts did you go to, and did you ever get the chance to meet him?
I never got to meet him. I went to 5 concerts.
Yeah.
Saw him 4 times in 2006, and saw him once in '89 for the Faith tour.
Oh man!
And I was supposed to go see him in Europe for the Symphonica tour, but that's when he got sick with pneumonia and canceled that part of the tour. So I didn't get to go.
Well, I thought you could have pulled some of your WWF string or WWE strings to have pulled that off, that meet and greet.
Yeah, well, one of our production managers over there, Davey Coates, he knew them, knew their production people. Yeah. So he was going to set that up, but instead I got a autograph program that says, "To Charles, love George Michael." So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And you haven't lost that one.
I have not lost that.
Yeah.
I actually have a room upstairs. If I weren't so afraid of losing my signal here, I would actually walk up there and let everyone see this crazy room. Actually, maybe I will. I don't know.
Let's try. It seems like it's good, and I'll just keep pitching questions to you.
Keep pitching.
If we lose you, we'll hook back up.
All right.
But let's see.
There's my staircase there.
All right.
That's the staircase. Look at that. That's it's a 4-foot 4-foot tour poster, and this is my George Michael room. Right here, guys.
The shrine. Wow. Look at this.
Couple life size, and
So what is the ultimate there? What is your greatest? What is your greatest collection piece there of George Michael that is your all-time favorite?
It's the autograph. Yeah, it's the autograph, which is right there. So
that's the program.
That's the program that he's on. Yes.
All right.
But I've had fans from Sean. Wrestling fans are the best.
Yeah,
I've had fans in Japan send me stuff that can't get in the States, whether it's horror memorabilia or George Michael's stuff. So almost forgot all these here.
So do you have a separate room for your wrestling stuff too? Is that?
The wrestling stuff that I have is I don't have a lot. I have a Ric Flair robe that is put away.
What about the little Nate? What about the little Nate robe? You still have that, I would think.
You mean this one right here? There we go.
There we go. Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, let me keep pitching these questions. If you got any more
Go
stuff to
ahead.
show us, I'd love to see it. But this is a good
Okay.
one, though. When I saw this, I thought this was a really good question. What was the biggest difference between reffing WCW and reffing WWE? Is it just
Zero.
wrestling? What is
Yep.
it?
Zero.
Yeah.
There's no difference. No difference. Yep.
Great answer.
Yeah, there is no difference. I mean, WCW, professional company, and they did things right. And WWE, of course, they're the best there is, and they do it right. So there's no difference. Same rules. No difference at
Same,
all.
same old.
It's same.
Okay. And also, while I've got it in my head that,
Yeah,
I still know a few people in the company, but they say Vince is as involved as ever. Is that the case from what you get to see?
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's at a lot of the shows.
Yeah.
Excuse me, especially the TVs.
Yeah.
He's still running the company. It's his baby.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Never
that's
changed.
it's never going to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Well, as long as he's breathing, I don't think. Let's see. Glenn Cooney on Instagram says, I remember Charles refed the mud match between Trish Stratus and Stacy Keibler in August of 2002. I hope this is coming back to you because I don't know how you
Yeah.
can forget it. Is it true that he and Trish had to go to the hospital due to the mud?
I think that I think they had to like flush our eyes out because we had so much mud in the eyes.
Huh.
I don't remember going to the hospital, but I'm pretty sure our doctors had to flush our eyes out. I mean, that was a lot of
Yeah, as
nasty
I say,
time.
what do you remember of that match or
Yeah.
whatever the hell it was?
I'm gonna be honest. The only reason I remember it, it might have been this guy posted a picture
Oh,
of me covered in mud from that match, and that's the only reason I remembered it.
all right, Glenn. There's your answer on that
Sorry,
one. But
sorry, Glenn.
no trip
I
to the
was mad.
hospital.
I didn't like it because it messed up my hair. But
That's right. Manuel on Twitter says, how intense was the long run to the ring at WrestleMania 24? You have some wheels, man.
yeah, that was so much fun. And
Yeah.
every year it's like, man, please let me run to the ring. Let me do a run in. Let me do a run in. So, and the funny thing is, the fans, they take the time to make these little memes and little videos set to all this music,
Yeah.
slow motion. So it was incredible to do. I
Yeah.
thought I looked pretty dorky running down the ring, but it was incredible. Thank goodness I'm sort of a runner, or used to be.
So you still got some wheels? You could do it again?
I can do it again.
In
I
your
have one
50s?
more in me, Sean.
Do you? Well, I think it should happen. There's no question about that. Brian Santoro, another great loyal Patreon member, was the Lil Natch your idea? And if not, what was your first thoughts when presented with the idea? And I think you kind of touched on this earlier that Nash
Right.
was involved, but was it did they give you the opportunity to weigh in on it, or you just go, whatever you guys want me to do?
Well, Kevin Nash, he offered it to me, asked me if I wanted to do it. I didn't hesitate for 1 second, because he knew where it was going. He told me I'd get to wrestle as a little Ric Flair is what he called it at the time. And then I never had any idea, I don't think they did either, that eventually I would tag with Rick. Mm-hmm. And if the injury wouldn't have happened, the rumor is that Rick and I were going to tag team all summer long.
Really?
Which would have been incredible.
Oh, that damn Randy Savage.
But, well, it probably worked out better for Rick's career and for my refereeing career, because after you do something like that, Sean, how do you go back to refereeing?
Yeah.
So everything worked out for the best.
Yeah, and how much of an appreciation did you have for what those guys did after that run?
Absolutely. Well, and running in the ring, and I used to go out and run 5-8 miles a day.
Yeah.
But once you get in the ring and you run 20 feet back and forth, after you do 80 feet, you're blown up.
Yeah.
It's a totally different type of cardio. If that makes any sense. I know it probably doesn't make sense to anybody. You ran 80 feet and you're out of breath, but you can run 5 miles. it gives you a whole respect for these guys that do matches that are 10, 15, 20 minutes. I can't even imagine how Flair and Steamboat did 60-minute matches.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you watch
Well,
them back, there's not a lot of rest spots. There's arm bars and headlocks and things, but there's a lot of movement going on during
yeah.
those.
And the ones that are the best at it, they train a whole different way. I mean, I remember, when I was younger and I played a lot of rugby, and it's the same kind of thing. You're getting, running full all out, getting knocked down, got to get back up, and
Right.
that's how you train. You burst, it's burst, and
Yes.
then and then being able to get up, and that's like you said, 3 minutes. You're got nothing.
I know. When I was doing the
just
training down in Tampa, I
yeah,
don't know how many times I had to go outside and throw up
yeah.
just because it's something that my body wasn't used to.
Yeah, even though you thought you probably were in shape, but
Right.
nowhere near. But like really, I'm sure you got a great appreciation for what they do. Even just
Absolutely.
people that go in the ring and they just try and do the ropes, and they're the next day they're black and blue because
Absolutely.
you just imagine doing that every single day. All right,
Yep.
Adam Garlow says, "What is your most prized piece of film memorabilia?" And we know that you're a big film buff.
Okay, it's right here, folks. It's a Night of the Living Dead
Ooh.
original movie poster. So that's probably my favorite piece of horror memorabilia. I
How'd you get a hold of that?
won it on an auction site
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Um, and I have hundreds of movie posters. I also collect life-size animatronics, uh, full-size bust, horror mask, toys, figures. So, but I love Night of the Living Dead. It was one of the first horror movies that I saw and loved as a child, and I was lucky enough to get that.
Yeah. And you can see the stuff over his shoulder there. He's got some really
Yeah,
great
see all kinds of
memorabilia. Man, your house is
crazy
a
stuff.
museum, Charles.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I have no room for anything else, but I keep buying stuff.
Just keep adding to it. All
Yes.
right. Don Hyman says, "What is your favorite piece of WrestleMania or wrestling memorabilia?" I know you said you don't have much, but is there
Yeah.
something that besides the? I know you said you have a Ric Flair robe, which
Yeah.
is a
That's it.
tremendous
That's the number one
collector's
thing.
item. That's it.
Absolutely. That's it. That's the number one thing. And I have like I have a photo of Edge and myself for his retirement match or his last match they
Yeah.
did, that he signed to me. Something like that's very important. Uh, I have
Personal.
a plaque with John Cena on it for his 16 time that he signed to me as well. So those are very, very important to me as well.
Also from Don said, "Can you feel the difference in the atmosphere of the crowd when someone like an Undertaker or Bray Wyatt comes out?" And I remember when I first was involved with the WWF and going out in the crowd when Hulk would come out, you could feel it. I mean, it wasn't just hearing it; you could feel it
Yeah.
through your body.
You could
Are
feel
there?
the energy.
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, they're just, people are so excited
yeah.
when they come into the ring, when they enter the arena. They know that something special is about to happen.
And it is amazing, Charles, to think. I've been to a lot of huge sporting events. I've been to World Series and Super Bowls, and I'll tell you, it's doesn't compare. And you talk about wrestling fans,
Right.
and it's not to say that there isn't a huge cheer, and you see, but it's the electricity when you have someone like the Undertaker or these guys that are really bigger than life. It is amazing. There's nothing else that compares to it in sport.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree. I mean, you look at WrestleMania, the way that the wrestling fans keep their energy level for 6 to 7 hours
Yeah,
because they get to the arena, then there's a two hour pre-show, and then the show's 4 or 5 hours, and they are just as excited and have so much energy even for that last match.
yeah.
Wrestling fans are the best. Period.
They are. They really are. They give it to you straight too. That's another thing you really have to appreciate
They
because
do. If it's something they don't like,
don't like.
they're going to let you know. Even
Yeah,
though, and we'll be honest, there's those that no matter what you do, you
yeah,
can't please. You know, well, you should have done this. No,
yeah,
but for the legitimate ones, when something doesn't go right, the company somewhat listens. You know,
Yeah.
they enjoy the feedback from the fans.
Yeah. And I'd say overwhelmingly that is what is the makeup of most of the fans. You know, of course, you're going to get on
Absolutely.
either end where people, no matter what you do. Let's see. Emil Struker says referees are sometimes portrayed to be dumb to make the finish for a match work, usually to protect a wrestler. How do you feel about that? And what's been the silliest instance of this?
Wow. Huh. Um,
I
I guess
think what
we,
they're saying is, I guess you take the fall a lot. You have to.
yeah, and that's bad that they do that because the referee shouldn't have the heat. You
Yeah.
know, just like I was saying about breaking up two guys during a street fight. That's dumb. Why
Yeah.
would you do that? You know, it makes no sense.
Okay.
But honestly, everything we're in control. If we do what we're supposed to do, and we don't always do that. Um, if we were to count guys out when they don't do what they're supposed to do, if we were to count three if they don't get their shoulders up,
Yeah.
that's on us. That's really not on the performers. It's on us.
All right. But like you said, then it does make you look dumb because
It
they're not doing
does.
their job.
Yep.
And is there an example that stands out to you? And you don't have to name particular personalities in this, but where it was a match where it was like, come on, like I can only help you so much.
Well, I had a last man standing match one time, and I was on like number 7 or 8, and neither one of them had moved yet.
Yeah.
So I had to like try to get them to do something,
Yeah.
get them to move.
Okay. Let's see. Was there a particular moment when you realized the WCW product was a long way off the WWE at the time? At what? And I think we're talking about near the end there when it did get just silly.
Yeah, and I'm a loyal person,
Yeah.
so when all that stuff was going on, I'm gonna switch over and plug in. Um, I'm pretty loyal, and I always thought that we were great regardless of what was going on. If that makes sense,
Mhm.
man.
Well, I think because you respected the guys you worked with, and it's not always they're the ones that are, having to make what they can look good out there.
Right.
Go ahead
Sorry
and
about
change
that.
it because I can pause on this.
Yeah,
So
I had to. My phone was giving me a low battery warning, so
yeah,
I just had to plug in. That's all.
yeah,
I'm good.
because I'm keeping you here forever. But I told you
Oh, that's
these
fine.
these guys
No,
with their
no.
questions, man.
I appreciate all the questions.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good ones. I'm glad and I'm telling you, Charles, we whittled them down. We got a lot of them here. Uh, and as I say that, Pearson Broadwater wants to know, what shampoo do you use, Charles?
I use J Beverly Hills Add Body Shampoo and
Well,
color protectant conditioner. So
there you go.
that's
See,
it.
you're getting it all today, folks. You're getting it all. DJ Nick on Instagram says, most nervous you've been for a match. Oh, that's a great one.
I was nervous for the Ric Flair Shawn Michaels match.
Were you?
Just because of what that match meant. You
Yeah.
know, um, I knew that with Shawn and Rick in there, it was going to be a great match, and I just wanted to hold up my end and make sure that I didn't mess up a very, very special moment for both of them.
Yeah. But, people ask me that all the time. Like, do you get nervous still? And even after all these years you've been doing it. But I think in a way, if you don't, and I don't know how people describe it, I don't know how you do, but I feel like if you don't have that, then what are you doing in there?
Exactly.
You know?
It keeps you on your toes. It's excitement from and being nervous from being afraid you might mess up, but it's also the excitement of
Right.
being able to do what you love to do night in and night out.
Yeah. That you're on that
That's
stage.
I go out into the arena and I look around and I just think, look how lucky I am to be here. There's so many people that would love to do what I do, and for some reason, God has put me here to be able to do this. So I get excited. I mean, there have been times when I just tear up in the ring just because it becomes so overwhelming
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
moment.
you've said that during that that Ric Flair retirement match at WrestleMania 24 that everybody was crying.
Yeah,
And I guess that
everybody's
included
crying.
you.
Yeah, I blew a couple snot bubbles and stuff. It was a little bit embarrassing, but man, that was very very emotional.
Yeah.
You know, um, of course, Rick didn't really retire because he went somewhere else and wrestled a few matches. But you know, we thought that was it. We'd never see Rick in the ring again.
Yeah.
And
But even if you knew that it was just that recognition
yes,
after all the time and all he had accomplished, it was just like a moment to see that it wasn't so much that he was leaving the ring forever, or that which was a part of it, but I think just the appreciation and then the recognition of it. And even
absolutely
you could tell even with him, that was no work. I mean, he was you know
right.
definitely feeling
Well,
emotional.
well, you know, now I think that he thought that was it for him too,
Really,
completely.
at the time.
Just yeah, I think just the opportunity. He was given the opportunity to be able to be in the ring, and I think people that are in this business, it's something hard to let go of.
Oh God,
You
we
know,
know that. I
you
mean,
know,
yeah.
um, and I hope and pray that I have another good 10 years left to do this.
Oh,
Um,
really?
that's why I work out and I run and I try to stay as youthful as I can. You know, it's we all know it's an image business.
Yeah.
So and you have to be able to get up, get down, get back up, get down, get back up,
Yeah.
without any problem.
Yeah. And you must be amazed at some people like Mark, who's, I remember him coming in as a kid, and he's still where he's at now, and still stepping into the ring. And we see, some of these other guys going in their
Right.
50s.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, and you could tell, like, the ones who did take care of themselves early on, and were very serious about getting to the
Yes.
gym when they needed to, and eating as well as they could, and not staying out. How they've done it. And then, of course, there's Ric Flair, who could probably go in the ring tomorrow, and everybody still wonders, like, he's like the Keith Richards of wrestling. That
Yes, he
not that
is.
he's old. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying that he's considering what he's, the pounding and what he's done to that chassis he has.
I know.
And then I don't know how much sleep he's had over the last 40 years or so, but uh, he's just a very unique individual. Let's leave it there.
Absolutely.
Um, well, and you did mention this. What were some of your more serious injuries or bumps you took? And we didn't talk specifically about some of the bumps, but were there a couple that really you're like, man, am I going to do this?
Yeah. You know, Sid Vicious, he
Oh
did a
God,
power bomb on me one time, and I folded up like an accordion on that. I mean, Kevin Nash gave a great power bomb because he would just lay you down nice and flat. But I don't know. One day, he drove me right through the mat, and I folded right over.
yeah.
Um,
I think I saw him give you a clothesline too that I think took your head off.
yeah, because I'm so short, so
Yeah.
that's where they hit you. You
Oh
know,
God.
probably one of the it looked the worst, but it was the easiest. Was the spear that Goldberg gave me.
Oh.
It was run in with Jericho, and Jericho threw me in front of Goldberg, and he speared me, and it looked like, I mean, he just mauled me,
G
but
and half.
he took care of me. I didn't
Yeah.
even feel. I told him, I said, man, we need to do that again. When I saw him this week at TV, I said, he
Oh,
goes about, I would love to do it.
yeah, he's ready. He's still doing it. Uh, well, I tell you what about that pile driver from Medusa though. That looked a little scary. Was that just the way it looked?
You know, it really was because she knew how to take care of me. And I had never taken a pile driver before,
Yeah.
except for, my brother and I, when we were in high school, we did a little talent show where we had a professional wrestling match. And he gave me a pile driver, but it wasn't like the Medusa pile driver.
Yeah.
But she took care of me. But yes, I was scared because I had heard of people jamming their necks and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's serious injuries. If you don't have somebody who knows what they're doing, it could be really dangerous. Let's see. What was the scariest moment he's ever run into while calling a match?
The
Todd
scariest
Siegel asked
moment.
that question. Was there
Huh.
a moment where you saw somebody get really badly hurt, or just do
Well,
something?
well, during the Jericho, gosh, what was his name? Kid that broke his ankle, Neville.
Oh,
Um, Neville got hurt, and I kept asking him if he was hurt, and he wouldn't answer me, so I didn't know he was hurt. Um, I mean, that was bad. But I've never been in there when someone actually. I'm going to correct myself. Worst thing I ever saw was when Fit Finley got put through a table in Jackson, Mississippi, and ripped off the back of his calf
oh,
when he went through the table. And I mean, I stopped the match immediately. He was gushing blood. I took my shirt off, which that had to be horrifying to the crowd when I took my shirt off and I wrapped it around his leg. But you know,
Jesus.
we had thought that was going to be a career-ending injury for Finley, but he
What
came
was
back
the
from it.
what was wrong with the table?
It's just those Formica tables, the way that he went
Oh
through it,
yeah, those
it
things are
just like it's a razor
like
blade.
glass. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And, it cut him wide open, and we immediately stopped the match. I believe it was with the Nasty Boys,
yeah,
but put him through it, and he was just gushing blood.
yeah.
That was terrifying. I've never seen so much blood, except for maybe on Ric Flair's forehead.
Yeah. Which was whenever,
Whenever he
quite often.
could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's well, Nick Smith. I'm just going to give you a shout out there, Nick Smith, because he did. Charles answered his question about Ric Flair's WrestleMania 24 retirement match.
Okay.
Aaron Michael Marsh on Twitter. What's the biggest reaction you've seen Vince have?
Vince.
Vince reacting to something. Any good stories of Vince
No.
backstage or?
Yeah. Because I don't really have anything to do with Vince. He's
Yeah.
sitting over there at Gorilla. Um,
Thank God you're not on the
really,
headset, right?
yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry I'm not able to answer the question, but there's really nothing where I have seen him react to something in a negative or positive way that really stands out.
Yeah. And people would have asked me that many times, and maybe it was just a different period of time, but all the time that I spent, like backstage, and I was many times in the meetings and backstage, I never saw him just lose it. And the way
Right.
people have sometimes tried to describe it, but that was never my experience. He was always very controlled. Maybe behind closed doors it was different, but
Right.
that's the way it was for me. And we're getting down to the close here.
Okay.
Is that retirement match your all-time Ric Flair favorite match, or is there another one? Because Cody Mincy wants to know from Instagram. If is
Yeah,
there?
that's absolutely my favorite Flair match that I got to referee. I wish that if I could go back in time, I would love to have done a Flair Steamboat match.
Oh yeah, God,
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
that would.
I think Tommy Young probably did 90% of those.
Yeah.
But
Well, any
I
match
would.
Steamboat was in those days, and Rick would have been awesome. But boy, some of the greatest matches ever with Steamboat he's been involved in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Well, you already talked about the Little Nate storyline. Is that got to be one of your favorite memories of all time in your career, doing
It,
that storyline with him?
yeah, it was, Sean. That's the sad thing about it was it happened so early in my career. It's like, where do you go from here? you know?
Yeah.
But that was exciting, man. It's been, gosh, 1999 when that happened. And people still call me Little Nate. Happened
Yeah.
21 years ago, and they're still saying it. So it had some impact on some people, and that is a very, very humbling experience.
Yeah. And the last one here, and I'm going to word it this way. I think it's a little different than Sydney
Okay.
Quanville said, but he says, how did it feel knowing you were going to crown Ric Flair and John Cena as the only two 16-time champions? I think I want to word it in a way that if somebody would have told you when you started reffing that one day, young man,
One day.
One day
Okay.
you will be in matches where Ric Flair and this kid named John Cena are going to be the only 16-time champions, and you're the guy that's going to be in the ring when they do it. Each of them does it.
It would be unbelievable. I would say there's no way that is going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
Because number one, just to be roughing a Ric Flair match, and then once I got to WWE and got to know this kid by the name of John Cena, I have so much respect for Cena, for his worth ethic and
yeah,
just everything that he does. He is a great, great guy. And
yeah,
for me to be in the ring with him it was an honor.
yeah. I've heard that many times too about John. I never had the chance to work with him. I've met him before, but I know people that work closely with him, and they say that for all the time he's been there, and of all the great people they've been around, that Cena's the guy, and has always
He
been
is.
really genuine. And
Absolutely, he
I mean,
is.
uh,
Yeah.
so
And go
looking
see his
back,
movies.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
see his
yeah,
movies. His movies are good.
yeah.
I
Who would have
enjoy it.
thought like Cena, Rock, now even Batista
Batista,
are like
yeah.
legit big time movie stars. I mean, Rock
I
is the
know.
biggest star on the planet.
In the world,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it was
Well,
funny when he was when we were in LA when he was there. I actually posted a picture of us together, and I said, this guy called The Rock. He wouldn't leave me alone. He kept coming up, bothering me for a picture all day. Finally, I had to take one. So that got a lot of funny responses on
yeah,
Twitter.
yeah, I bet.